Welcome to God of Run. This is Will Sanchez. Thank you for tuning in. My special guest today is Harry McFann. Harry is a photographer, a filmmaker, and a runner. I heard about Harry from Ben Coe. Ben Coe is a photographer in the local area. Ben told me about Harry's current project, his current documentary called We Run New York. I am honored to have Harry as a guest.
Thanks for having me.
Harry, before we go into your life story, I'm sure people tuning in want to know right away, what is the status of We Run New York?
Looking good. Anybody that's been following knows it's taken longer than I anticipated. About 3 weeks into production, I realized I bit off, I wouldn't say more than I can chew because I am doing it, but the timetable is just too ridiculous for me to do by myself. But to answer your question, the first episode is almost completed editing. I actually should have the first cut of it done later this week.
Is it going to premiere at some place, or is that too far ahead?
Hopefully in January, we can have like a premiere of some sort.
Oh, January's only around the corner.
I know.
I'm sure, Roadrunners would love to be part of it. In fact, I know they helped because I've seen some of the footage, and I think you guys were able to ride in the back of the car with the Roadrunners. So a lot of people helped on this project, but we'll go more into it. And I love the music. It's like, who knew running could be like opera? That soaring music.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, tell us about the music.
I've been very happy how many people have actually commented on that. Yeah, the first trailer, because that is from Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And at first I was using Creative Commons as like the label for it. It's just like people who like make music and like they say you can use it as long as you credit them properly. And I was using a piece, but the problem with a lot of the music people upload is it's pretty bad. So I eventually quit that idea because I decided, let's explore going to classical music, because I do listen to a lot of classical music on my own, but it's tricky to find something that's in the public domain and also sounds good. So I was going through different pieces and stuff like that, and something that like matched my idea of running, and the big thing, of course, would be a fast tempo. Vivaldi's Four Seasons was kind of an obvious choice that I ignored kind of off the bat because it's used in so many things, but I used a movement from it that isn't used as often. So that way I could like kind of be like, okay, like this is still really good, but it's not the thing everybody's already heard 1,000 times.
Okay.
Because I have a rule, like if a piece of classical music has been used in something before to like some degree of good effect, then it's off limits. Like the second movement of Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, you just can't use it anymore.
Okay.
And then one afternoon, I was just cleaning my room while listening to some music, and Brahms' Third Symphony comes up, and I'm just like, whoa! Like this is the first time I'd ever heard it before. I'm like, this is it. And all of a sudden, like every image like started like coming together. I'm like, this is how it's going to work. So you're able to get like extraordinary music for free because it's in the public domain. Sometimes you get lucky with a good recording.
Yeah, you definitely notice it, and you go, it really gets the heartbeat going.
Yeah.
And especially when you see the runners making the turn and the music, the beat is right on.
Oh, yeah. When I showed Bill Staub the trailer, because he also loves classical music and has been to a gajillion operas, that's kind of like actually how we first like really like, that was like the first thing we bonded over, more so than running even, because I walked into his apartment, I just saw his massive record collection of classical records. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he was just like, yeah, it matches like really well. And he asked me, he's like, is that your specialty? I was like, I just like doing that. Like, and like usually because I would listen to the music over and over and over and over and over again to become very familiar with it, and to be like, okay, like this movement matches that, and kind of like it's something called Mickey Mousing. Which the name kind of comes from Fantasia, the Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And the idea is like, when like Mickey Mouse is like walking, like the strings like match it, like bum, 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 bum. So that's like the colloquialism for it. But I try to do that as much as I can to varying degrees with my stuff because it just, adds life to it.
Okay, cool. We should mention Bill Staub is the head coach for the West Side Runners.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to boxing, where somebody from a working class environment can move up by excelling.
Actually, it's more than a head coach. He's like family. He really takes care of his runners. In fact, sometimes his runners don't have a place to stay. He takes them into his own home, cooks for them. A lot of his runners are immigrant runners. His story's not that well known. I mean, the reason I know of him because I've had a few of his runners here, and they are fantastic people, fantastic. He's a fantastic coach. Well, let's turn our attention then to you in terms of, tell us where you were born and tell us something about your growing up years.
Well, I was born in Columbus and grew up in Gahanna, which is a suburb just outside of Columbus, Ohio. Was, pretty I always think of whenever I would watch a high school drama, growing up, I was just like, this is not like my life at all. Like my life's so much more boring and simple. But I always had a love for film growing up. And I remember the very first moment when I became kind of aware of filmmaking. And that was when I think it was actually the very first time I watched The Wizard of Oz. I watched it with my mom, and beforehand she kind of gave me a little prep talk as to almost how to watch it. She explained to me it's going to transition from black and white to color, and the people in the beginning of the movie are going to show up later on in the movie. I'm I don't even know. I was 5 years old or something like that, and I don't know how I remember this. Probably because every time I watch the movie, I think about that moment again. But all the farmers are the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and everything, and the Witch of the West and all that. And watching it, I was just blown away. Whoa! How does that happen? That's crazy. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated with just all these little details and stuff like that. And so I was aware of more than just the story being presented and just the ins and outs and to some degree with that the themes of it. And my parents are just both movie buffs, and TCM is always on in the living room. And I think my parents have seen every Cary Grant movie ever. So
it's quite a bit.
Yeah, I know. I remember one time over the winter there was a Cary Grant movie on, and my mom was shocked that she had never seen it. So she's like, "We're going to watch this now." And yeah, and that was just always just part of growing up, being around movies, and especially movies from classical Hollywood, because my mom grew up watching what her father watched because he was a movie buff.
Oh, okay. This is a generational thing.
Yeah.
Now, is the running also generational?
My dad ran when he was in law school because to kind of help with building endurance for the bar, he trained for marathons, and he did a couple
Interesting.
marathons.
What a reason. I need endurance to pass the bar exam.
Well, it's a grueling test, so it makes sense.
And there's no lifting, even though it's a call bar.
Yeah, well, endurance comes in different ways. I mean, you're just sitting there for hours on end, and you want to be able to focus.
Okay, so where did the running come for you?
So I started running when I was in 7th grade, which I think I would have been 13, and the winter of that year, I tried out for the basketball team because I also played basketball, but I came to realize in that winter for tryouts that I wasn't particularly good at basketball. And I didn't make the team, and I was really upset. But I knew I was always going to do track, even going into middle school, because everyone did track. Our track team was massive because there aren't tryouts, and it was kind of more of a social thing for most people. And I always enjoyed just racing in the backyard. My earliest racing memory is racing my brother in the backyard and losing to him, being really mad. And then in gym class, being competitive with my other classmates and trying to beat them in races and stuff like that. And so when I did track, I actually was a sprinter first. And I think on the first day, I asked about 5 different people to confirm that the 100-meter was the shortest race, because we had to write down on a piece of paper what events we wanted to do. It's it's the 100-meter, right? I don't want to mess up and do a long race. So I was just only the 100-meter. Then by the end of that year, my appetite for running kind of grew, because I actually almost quit my first year running because
In high school?
No, in middle school.
Oh, middle school.
Yeah,
okay.
I almost quit like a few months into it because it was hard.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is like not fun. Like this isn't like basketball, And I was just like, I'm not really good at this, and it's just like I don't something's not clicking. And then I was fortunate one day, a kid on the team was being picked on by some 8th graders on the team. And the coaches got furious and punished the whole team for letting something like that happen. So we had to do a second workout. And we're running it, and I'm doing my laps and everything, and something magical happened. I realized, like, oh, wait, I'm able to do this. Like, I can push myself so much harder than I thought I could.
Uh-huh.
And so since that moment, I was like, okay, like I'm doing this. I'm investing like myself into this.
That was your moment of epiphany.
Yeah, exactly. By the end of that year, the 400 became my specialty. And then in 8th grade, I focused mostly on the 400, and then I did cross country in the fall. And then freshman year of high school, I did cross country, and everybody on the team told me that there's no way I was going to be a sprinter anymore. So I was like, trying to figure out what event I was good at now, and then I found my way by the end of indoor season doing the 800. I'm like, okay, this is the one I'm good at.
Well, you're getting taller, stronger, so obviously you can now do the 800 and probably a little bit more later on. So at this point, you're watching movies, you're getting better at the running, and your family's probably saying, "What about college, Harry?" So how did you decide on your college career?
Oh gosh, I was actually really lucky because like my parents have never pressured me into doing anything really. I mean, the only thing that they're really anal about is that I like have good manners.
Good manners.
Yeah. Like I like, for example, in an elevator, I will be the last one to step out because one time I got out first and my mom like pulled me aside and was like, "You'll never do that again." And I'm like, all right. And so every time I'm on the elevator with my parents, I always make fun of my mom for that moment because it's like, yeah, no, I'm not getting out of this elevator before you. And it's usually like me and like some 40-year-old man is just like, "Oh, after you." I'm like, "Oh, no. My mom's like hiding in the rafter somewhere."
My mom is looking at me.
Yeah. You don't understand. But with college, my older brother went to Ohio State. And so he's 4 years older than me. So by the time I was in my senior year of high school, he was in his senior year of college.
Yeah.
And so growing up around Columbus, like my plan was to go to Ohio State, basically. Like everyone goes to Ohio State. I mean, it's the second largest school in the country. So, and I was hoping to run there as well. And then my junior year state meet, I got 5th and I ran a 1:53.68 for the 800. And so all of a sudden, over that summer going into my senior year, I started getting letters from schools and stuff like that. I was just like, oh, this is cool. But I didn't get a letter from Ohio State because the coach at that time was infamous for not recruiting. And so I sent emails, didn't get a response. And then in the meantime, I'm getting letters from like Georgetown and Notre Dame. And like, oh, these are cool schools. But like, they didn't have film schools. So I immediately disregarded them. I got a letter from Columbia. I was just like, whoa. And so I go on my computer and I do my research. I'm like, okay, like, I look at the team and like, this is a good team. And then like, they have a film school and it's in New York. It's like, there we go. Like, I'm going there. And I decided.
That's how you decided.
I decided right in that moment, like, this is the school I'm going to.
Okay, so how was the transition from small town Ohio to the Big Apple? So you probably felt like Dorothy. I'm not in Columbus anymore.
Something like that, yeah. I remember I landed in Newark and the coach picked me up and we're driving across the GW. And I'm just like, wow, like this is so like crazy, and pointing out the window and stuff like that. And the coach is like, oh no, that's still New Jersey. Like this is Manhattan. And I see this, I was like, whoa. I don't really know how I was able to miss the fact that like I was looking at Manhattan anyway. Like I had to turn my head to see New Jersey, but that actually happened. Mildly embarrassing. I'm sure the coach thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But like it was kind of love at first sight. It's just like this is like everything I could have dreamed of. And my recruiting trip was actually like really boring. But just like walking around like the city blocks is like this is so amazing. Like so many buildings everywhere. Everything's like famous and historical in some way or form.
Here you are at Columbia. You're doing film school, and you're running. Now those two things are very time consuming because we're here in Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and most of the people here got their first inkling of film and television right here at the studios. But we know it's very time consuming to do any kind of filming. And so how did you balance the two? I mean, I've had people here, they had to give one up. You know, they couldn't do both. They couldn't do the school if they wanted to be a top-notch professional versus, you know, an athlete. So did you have that quandary as well?
Yeah, the hardest thing was just scheduling courses, but thankfully my coaches were very accommodating, and I worked with them, and like we changed practice around to fit my schedule sometimes.
Yeah.
And also me just being extremely stubborn and like I don't want to do anything else. Like this is like I'm not gonna like not do one of these. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I came here to run and to study film. There is no other option, sort of idea.
Okay. All right. So you made it work somehow, but you probably had to make compromises in the sense that there's a lot of aspects to filmmaking. There's theory, there's practice, there's, you know, were you going to be a Martin Scorsese type, or were you going to be more of a writer? So did that play into your thinking?
A little bit. I had to figure out how to make it work for me. So every opportunity, I just like played to every advantage I did have. So in one of my courses, we pretty much it's a required course for everyone, freshman level, 4-year, reading through like an abridged version of the Western canon. And the end of the semester, most classes you write a paper, but my professor was really cool, and I was able to make a short film. So I just adapted one of the stories that we read and made it into a short film. And my actors were people from the team. I just asked my teammates, like, hey, can you guys like do this for me?
Running team.
Yeah, and so
cool.
every one of my short films, except for one, throughout college, featured runners, like in the starring roles, which some people joked at because it's like, everybody in your movies are so fit. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then it was just like kind of funny because like we just kind of did a lot of takes to make sure they said the line correctly. But theory, I mean, Columbia's film program for the undergrad is theory-based. There are only like 3 required production courses. So I taught myself film production. And I started that in high school just with like, I bought a camcorder and like I used Windows Movie Maker. But like, I continued just like, you know, trying to do new things because I would pretty much like see something on YouTube or like a movie and on the big screen and be like, okay, how do I do that? How do I recreate that?
Yeah.
And I keep on trying to experiment and stuff like that. And thankfully with the internet, you can just like research things. So the most important thing is knowing what words to use for the actual, like it can't be like super vague, but like as my vocabulary increased, I was able to figure out what questions to ask to find the answers I needed. And with the theory, I was very upset at the beginning of my academic career because I was like, I don't want to learn theory, I want to learn production. And like my first class actually was on documentary theory. And I remember sitting through it 99% of the time. All I was thinking about is how I just wanted to drop out of school. I was like, I don't need this. Like, you know, like thinking about like other people that like Kubrick didn't go to school. And then later I read that Kubrick sat in and audited film classes at Columbia. I was like, all right, I'll stay.
All right. So eventually you graduated from Columbia. I guess you were a very successful runner. Were you on championship teams? Did you get personal recognition in your running?
I did pretty well. I actually tend to like avoid telling a lot of people who don't know me as a runner about my running career because I just feel like a guy who's like showing off, or even worse at the track, people are like, why don't you run anymore? So I have like I have a couple school records, like in the 4x8, the indoor 4x8 or DMR. One of the records was broken last year. And then I have the open 800 school record. And then I had some Ivy League records, but most of those have been broken. I was like an 8-time Ivy League champion with that's individual and relays. 1-time All-American indoor for the DMR.
Okay.
And three-time outdoor qualifier for outdoor nationals.
Those are very, very good credentials. Was there any thought of continuing that professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my whole plan, was to graduate and run for New Jersey, New York Track Club. There were a lot of factors that played into those things changing. One of them is I just like planned for my post-collegiate life very poorly in that I didn't make any plan really at all. Like I wasn't prepared, and it was just like me being a complete moron with it. So like the first week I was like, oh, this was a mistake. And also my last race went very, very poorly, and I was kind of just like so disheartened from running.
Your last race in college?
Yeah.
What was it? Was it an important race? I guess
It was nationals.
nationals.
Yeah, and I was hoping to get top 8, but I got like close to last.
Okay.
So I just
It wasn't your day.
yeah,
Cramps
there
or
was a
whatever?
lot of factors involved, unfortunately, and they should not. I felt like I should not have run so poorly, especially considering how important that day was. But it happened, and I was just like very frustrated, and life was getting difficult, and I again was very stubborn because I wanted to live in New York still. I didn't want to move out to New Jersey or anything like that because New York is why I'm here and everything. And I also wanted to still have one foot in film while also that one foot in running. And it got to a point where I wasn't able to make them both work anymore, and I had to make a choice. And I just chose film. This was like over the course of just like 5 hours one night.
And how long ago was that?
I graduated in 2014, so it was
2014.
over the summer.
3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3.5-ish.
So I guess you run for recreational purposes, for fun.
Yeah, my running goes on and off. Immediately after graduating, or around that same time, I was pacing people because that's how I was feeding myself.
Oh, you get paid for that. Interesting.
Yeah, so I would pace people on workouts and runs and stuff like that, and like worked as a personal trainer a little bit because that was the only thing I knew how to do, basically.
Okay. And filmmaking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now, do you do pacing, or you now it's mostly 99% filmmaking and running for fun? Is that what the ratio is now?
Yeah, I mean, some of my friends actually, like in the last month or so, have asked me to help them out with some pace work. One of the people in the documentary actually lives down the street from me, so I go on runs with her and help her on workouts and stuff.
Okay.
Okay. And it's
But
really
you
fun
probably
because
do
it
it
gets
for
me out
fun
of
and
bed.
not necessarily charging them.
Yeah,
Or
I don't charge. Yeah.
They'll buy you pizza.
Well, sometimes we have breakfast afterwards, and it's fun.
Yeah, well, all runners do that. You're working on, and hopefully it's you said the first episode is going to come out soon of We Run New York. So how many episodes do you envision this to be?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on the success of the first episode. We have 5 planned out, and I've filmed. I mean, if you do look at the most recent trailer, you can see there's more than just the West Side Runners.
Right.
So we also have a whole list of other ideas we want to dive into, depending on how successful it is. And so the big we had the 5 planned, and then many more in the backlog for future possibilities. But again, if this isn't as big as we thought it would be, then we'll adjust accordingly. But if it's big, then we got plenty of room to grow.
Okay. So big meaning, obviously it takes money to pay these people, your videographer, your equipment, your color editor, and your editor, or you do all the work yourself, other than the music?
I do 99.9% of everything.
Okay.
For races, I hire some other videographers to help me out. And then for filming runners, depending on the type of run, but especially a long run or something like that, I have dolly operators.
Okay.
Dolly.
But that costs money. And in fact, you had I forgot what it's called, Indiegogo, whatever it was, but you were only able to raise approximately half of the funds.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you funding yourself for the rest of the project?
So something ridiculous happened. Because the Indiegogo started off really well, and I was like, all right, we're going to do it. And then it exponentially dove down into almost no activity day to day. I'm like, oh gosh, this is bad. And then one day I get a message on Facebook from somebody I had no idea who this person was. So I ignored it. And then it was to our Facebook page for the documentary. So my partner was able to see it too. And I'm just riding the subway one day, and he texts me, he's like, did you see the Facebook message? And I'm like, that's spam, And he's like, dude, look at it right now. And he sends me a screenshot. And a guy is sending us a big introduction. He's like, I work with Adidas, and we would like to fund the remainder of your project.
That tells you they should come to the punchline right off the bat, rather than make you wait to read all this
Oh, yeah,
crap.
but I was just like, oh my gosh. And I replied immediately. It's like, hey, sorry for the late response and everything. Like, this sounds great. I'm on board. So Adidas has been helping us out and providing us with funding and also some gear for people and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So it's probably going to premiere at the Adidas store because I think they have a really nice store.
Yeah, there's
in
been
New
talks
York.
with that.
Oh, and they got all sorts of relationships. So that's great. So I'm very excited for that. So in closing, is there anything you want to tell us about the project, about your next big film?
I guess be prepared for the unexpected.
Mis hijos pues son la más grande bendición. Todos lados que estoy con ellos, a todos lados voy con ellos. Siempre quieren estar conmigo. Ha sido la bendición más grande. Desde que nació Dylan, mi primer hijo, que tiene ahora 7 años. Yo cambié muchas cosas. Cuando lo cargué por primera vez en mis manos, cuando lo vi por primera vez llorar, la primera vez que me dijo papá, la primera vez que... Todas las primeras veces fue algo muy, muy hermoso. Cambió completamente mi vida, para siempre. De ahí llegó Lenny, el segundo, ahora tiene 4 años. Son simplemente mi motor para seguir adelante. Siempre, a pesar de que hay veces que hay altibajos, todo es como una rueda. A veces estás arriba, a veces estás abajo, pero... Cuando veo a mis hijos, digo, tengo que hacer las cosas por ellos, tengo que echarle ganas por ellos, a pesar a veces uno como ser humano comete errores. Siempre están mis hijos en mi mente, siempre. Siempre le pido a Dios que me dé salud y vida para poder verlos crecer y estar con ellos, verlos triunfar como seres humanos. Y pues son mi todo mis hijos. Mi bendición más grande.
Well, on that note, be prepared. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.